second speaker, Sue Papadoulis, who is doing a talk today on how to create a storm of free publicity and media attention. As a journalist by trade with a 22-year career in the media, Sue understands the media industry inside and out. She has worked as a news editor, a public relations executive, a PR consultant with her own PR business, and Sue has used the media to promote her own businesses appearing on A Current Affair. Sue now empowers entrepreneurs with all the skills necessary to get their own free publicity in the media. Her students have appeared on major TV programs including Sunrise, The Project, Today Tonight, A Current Affair, Wake Up, Channel 7's Morning Show and Sky Business News. Sue's goal in life is to inspire others to step up and play a bigger game by using the power of the media. She is the celebrated co-author of 2 books, including the Amazon bestseller, Align, Expand and Succeed, and Ignite Your Business Mojo. So Sue, I have attended Sue's both half-day event and 2-day seminar where she and I learned how to talk to the media, and that was a couple of weekends ago. We were on the radio just this Monday gone, so what she's got to teach is really unique, and it is a system that is proven, as I've just read. So please take it away.
Very much delighted to be here. I've never been to Doncaster before. I've only ever been to central Melbourne, so it was a nice little drive out into the suburbs, and feel really honoured to be here. I actually live in Perth, and Natasha very serendipitously caught me on the end of a trip up down the east coast. So we've been in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne this morning, so it just happened to be that the dates worked out. So here we are, so very happy to be here. Okay, let's get started. Who would like to be in the news for the right reasons? Okay, what I'd like you to do, you've all got pen and paper. I'd like you to take out your pen and paper. You'll probably take a few notes, so I've got a bit of content to share. I'd like you to write down your #1 publicity goal. So if you could get any kind of publicity for you and your business, where would it be? What newspaper, what TV show, what radio program, what magazine, what online outlet, what blog? If you have an idea, write it down. Okay, it's always interesting when I see people's faces, because some people go, yeah, I know right away, and then some people go, oh, I never even thought about that before. So if you want to achieve anything, you need to have a goal. And if you want to be in the media, you need to know where you want to be. So if you really want to be on Sunrise, and you've written that down, and you now have a plan of action, you said we have a Sunrise in the front here. Yep, it's definitely possible. One of our students has been on Sunrise twice in the last 2 weeks. So very possible for you guys to do that. And you've just taken the first step, which is to have a goal and write it down. Now you just need a plan of action to get there, which is where we're coming in today. So let me get a sense of who's who. Who's never tried to get publicity before? Okay, for a few of you. Who's tried it and had no coverage? Okay, a couple of you, and that's not uncommon. If you don't know how to do this properly, it's not going to work. Who's tried it and had some success? Okay, anyone ever hired a PR firm, apart from Justin? Justin was at my seminar this morning, so he's kind of heard some of this already.
That's okay.
He'd like to do more, get more publicity. Yep, cool. All right, so let me talk about, first of all, what I mean by publicity, because some people are confused. They think that I might mean spending money on an ad. Okay, so who's done that, spent money on an ad in a local newspaper? Yeah, and the lady at the back there, did it work? No. No, okay, and that's very common. Okay, that if you're not spending big bucks, and I mean tens of thousands of dollars on advertising, it's probably not going to work. Okay, you need to have a big budget for advertising to actually come through. So what it is actually news stories. Okay, so it's news stories about your business on TV shows like the ones I've mentioned already, on radio programs like the hourly bulletins or on 3AW or any other radio station that you have here in Melbourne. It's newspapers and magazines like The Age and the Herald Sun, magazines like Business Review, Weekly, BRW, online outlets and influential blogs. So I'm talking about stories about you and your business appearing for free on those kinds of outlets. And that's very possible for you guys to do. So a lot of our students are micro businesses, one-man bands, small business owners, and that's who we love to work with, because you guys have really great stories. Much more interesting than a big corporate office, nameless faces, scoring big business, you guys have passion and enthusiasm, and that's what makes fantastic stories in the media. So publicity is actually a process of identifying a story about you and or your business. So you're working out a story. I'm going to give you a tip on how to do that in a moment. Contacting a journalist and telling them about your story, and we do that through what's called a press release. You may be familiar with press releases, but that's the appropriate way to contact the media. Getting your story broadcast or published for free. Okay, so no money changing hands. So not even paying for an ad and getting a so-called free editorial. Has anyone ever had that experience? You get offered the ad, and usually when you get offered the ad and pay for a space for a free editorial, it sounds like an ad. The journalist is not happy about having to write that. And I used to be a journalist, and I know if an advertising person came and asked me to write a story for someone who advertised, I'd do a bad job. I would take their copy from their website or copy from their brochure. Because it's not, to me as a journalist, you don't buy a story. It's not the way it works. Okay? And you increase awareness of you, the brand, and most importantly, you bring clients back to you. You make a profit from the coverage that you generate. So how do you go about getting publicity? The steps you take to get it is critical to the outcome. Okay, so the kind of old school way of doing it is that you hire someone to do it for you. And we think this is one of those things we should outsource because PR people exist. So we think of all the things we can delegate and outsource, PR is one of those things. But in fact, it's actually not one of those things you should outsource because it doesn't take you very much time and you can do a whole lot better yourself because you have the passion and the enthusiasm and the knowledge that someone else representing you just doesn't have. Okay, so if you go to a PR person or a PR firm, they put together a big fat proposal. There's lots of big scary terms in there like publicity campaign and brand awareness and stuff that you're not really sure about. There's a big fat figure down the bottom of it, and they're going to charge you a lot of money, which you're not obviously going to be able to afford or not really understand what they're going to do for that money. They don't guarantee you any media coverage. They don't say you definitely get media coverage if you spend $5,000, $10,000 with us. You might get media coverage, but it's probably more about brand awareness. And can I tell you, having hired many PR firms who worked in the corporate arena and marketing companies in the past, if one of them tells me that the best thing we got out of the campaign was brand awareness, or the only thing we are going to get out of the campaign is brand awareness, forget it. Because to me that is code for it's not really going to work. It's just the big fat get out clause. They say, oh, brand awareness, fantastic. You need to spend another $50,000 to actually get people to come and do some business with you, but we've got brand awareness moving in the right direction. Well, that's not good enough for us who are small business owners. Okay, for Virgin and Coke and McDonald's, but we need bums on seats and dollars at the door. So it becomes an expense. Our way of doing it is you learn how to do it yourself, and it's actually really easy. You don't have to be a professor of PR to understand how to do this. Okay? Anyone can do PR. It's really very easy. And once you know how to do it, it's only going to take you an hour or two per month. Okay, so who likes the sound of an hour or two per month to grow their business? Yeah.
I've got 2 free hours now.
That's right, use one of those. Yeah. Or you can get someone else on your team, if you have other people working and helping you, a VA or someone like that could easily do this for you. Okay? As long as they know you well and understand what it is you do. So you learn how to come up with a story idea, you learn how to craft a great press release, you know how to position your message so you get people coming back to you from that story. And that's really important. One of the things we teach is when you have sending out a press release, you want to be having some kind of call to action in there. And getting the magazine or the TV show to have your website on the story when it's going to air or when it's going to print. And a lot of our students get that, and that's where the beautiful thing happens and everyone comes to buy your product or service. So it becomes a profit generator as opposed to something that you have to spend money on. So everyone has a great story. When we were doing Around the Room before, I was listening to everyone's business and my goodness, you guys have amazing stories. And particularly those, who's in wellness here? Yeah, there's a lot of wellness, I was noticing that. And I was saying to Debbie earlier, wellness and Marcus.
Had to step up.
No, not that Marcus, another Marcus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he stepped out.
He has no good saving.
Marcus here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stepped out. Wellness in particular, it's so easy. Like, you know, everyone has great stories, but wellness, you guys have it so easy because media loves to talk about health and well-being. Not only the well-being, but kind of how you look, how you feel and how you look. And a lot of our students who are on national television, that's the kind of story that they're looking at, is that health and well-being stuff. So, interestingly though, most small business owners don't do this. They don't reach out to the media. So, for those of you who haven't, why? Why did you not? Why have you not yet? Yeah?
Decide I feel like I need to establish myself a bit more.
Yes.
Before
Fear of the expert status.
yeah, maybe.
Yes, yeah. And can I just you know, reassure you that a journalist doesn't care how well established you are. You know, if you are running a business in your field, you are expert enough because you're more expert than anyone else who's not in your field, and that's all they really care about. Yeah. So things like here, we feel intimidated. We don't understand how it works. We're worried we get it wrong. We're worried about negative publicity. We're worried we might get stung by big PR firm fees. You know, all of those things hold us back. And can I just cover off the negative publicity thing? Some people say, oh, especially wellness, they start going, oh, I'm not a doctor. So, you know, what happens if someone rings up and says that I'm not a doctor or I'm not, you know, qualified or whatever? The worst thing that can happen to you when you reach out to the media, the very worst thing is they just want to do your story. Okay? You're not going to get chased down the street with a microphone and a camera just because you sent a press release in. Okay? They're not going to waste their time doing that unless you've stolen money from someone. But if you're just sending a press release out, they're not going to chase you down the street. So just a quick update on why I'm doing this and why part of my story. I started out as a journalist. I worked as a journalist for 10 years in Australia, and I went over and worked in London for a while over there in radio, and I came back and I became news editor of the Busy Talkback station, sister station to 3AW, and I became the youngest radio news editor in the country at the age of 28, and a lot of responsibility. And at that point I started to really think about, for the first time, the impact of what I was doing. So reading out negative stories, being part of negativity all day, every day, really started to take its toll. And there are a few things that happened that changed my direction completely. And one of the things that happened was a story that I read out on a bulletin about a car accident. And to me, you know, the first story was there had been an accident, so we reported on that. Then the next hour we did another story which was caused a traffic problem. And the next hour was a story that it had been a fatal accident. So we're getting more and more information as we go along. The next story was it had been a child that had been killed. And the last story was the police had released the name of the child that had been killed, and it was the child's name. And I read out the child's name on there. I came out of reading that story, that bulletin, into the newsroom, and one of my staff, who I employed, a young 20-something girl, she said to me, there's some bitch woman on the line. And when she said that, you know, kind of had to do a double take and went, you know, I'm not like these people. I employed her because she's tough and she's backstabbing and she's competitive and all the things you need to be a journalist, but I just felt like, you know what, these are not my people, even though I was in charge. And then the next thing she said floored me. She said, I think it's the mother of the kid who was killed. Oh. And so my heart sank, and I went into my office and I closed my door, and I probably had one of the hardest conversations, I get to read that now, I've ever had to have. And you know, you can imagine how angry and upset she was with me, because I've just named her child in the context of a story on air. And it wasn't just the fact that I'd done that, but also I had informed a whole community of people who didn't know that fact, who knew the family, that that's how they found out. How horrific is that? And I'd never thought about that before, until that day. And I found myself with nothing more to say than I'm sorry. I had no legitimate reason to excuse my behaviour. And at that point I did two things. I decided to change the news policy, so we no longer release the name of people who've been killed in accidents, because it served no purpose, and to give us another 15-second story, but it hurt so many people. So we didn't do that anymore, and I decided to leave. And you know, it was a really big decision because my ego was so caught up in me being on the radio and me being someone that people knew. But I did it because I thought this, I just felt it was not the right thing to be doing anymore. So I left and I did the only thing I thought I could do with my skill set, and that was to go to the dark side. I say the dark side because journalists really do look at PR people that way. If you go and work in PR with having been a journalist, you kind of sold your soul to the devil. But I did that, and I was really successful at it because I understood what a journalist wanted, and that was the key. And when I got into PR land, I was shocked and appalled by how bad these people are at their jobs, and they really don't get it from the journalist perspective. But I was highly successful at it just because I knew what a journalist wanted. I left and got married and had a baby straight away, and decided to take that leap of faith, as most of you have done, step off the cliff to leave the job and start a business. And my business was in PR. And I also started another business, a website designed to help women like me who had a fear of starting a business, a membership website. And I managed to get that business onto the current affair, and that rocked my world. I tell you, we went from zero, nothing, to selling $40,000 of products and services overnight. And that really, the first time I went, wow, imagine, as a business owner, I really felt like what it was to be on the receiving end of publicity. So I've been a journalist, I've been in PR, and I've been a business owner who understands the benefits of being in the media. So let me just give you some content about how the media really works. So there's always going to be those big stories of the day, like today it's the shooting of the boy and the father. They're shocking stories, and they'll always be there. Okay? But most of the stories in the media are just useful pieces of information. So a lot of how-to stuff. So when you go and turn on the TV tonight or tomorrow, you might pick up a bit of sunrise. There'll be lots of stories on how to do something or other. Okay, so let's have a look at some steps around publicity. The first step is to understand that a journalist needs you as much as you need them. Okay, so they are looking forward to hearing from you, because how they move their career ahead is to get some great stories, and they rely on people like us to send them to them. Okay, but it's not about you personally. Okay, a lot of people think I have to get my thing out there and talk about myself, and really what you want to be doing is helping the audience in some way, as opposed to talking about yourself. So it's not about making announcements about yourself, or talking about what's in your brochure, or telling them about your new website, or any of that stuff, because that's stuff about you. It's not stuff about the audience. So let me give you an example. This is what not to do. This is what journalists get all the time. Real estate agent Jenny Smith is pleased to announce the launch of her new website, richmondrealestate.com.au. Is that interesting to anyone? No. But we could have a story that is how to add $20,000 to the sale price of your home this spring. That is interesting. Jenny didn't have to launch a website. She could put a press release out about that. The next step is to come up with a story idea. Okay, so we're wanting to come up with a quick and easy story idea. The quickest way to come up with a story idea is to tie in with something that's already happening in the news. Okay, tie in with something that's already happening in the news. So this week, Chappelle Corby's been a big story. I saw a psychologist being interviewed about how she's going to cope on the outside. So that psychologist tied themselves into the Chappelle Corby story. So we can have things that come up on a regular basis, like the weather. So we might have a Chappelle Corby thing that's really big, but then we could think about other things that come up on a regular basis, such as the weather. Okay, so some weather-related stories, the cost of a cyclone, what floods can do in some sectors of different industries, how to prepare your home for winter. So if you can tie in with regular weather events, then that's an opportunity. Easter's not so far away, and every year we see lots of Easter stories. Who can think of an Easter story? Babies being born.
Healthy chocolates.
Chocolates, yep.
Spend time with family.
Yep, absolutely. Save the Bilby. Every year, you're going to notice that now, as I've told you. Every year. Save the Bilby story comes out, and it does my head in, because they've been on the verge of extinction for at least 25 years. Every Easter, there's a whole spread on how Bilbies are nearly on the, nearly on the, not that I have anything against Bilbies, but it just drove me insane when I was a journalist. I did the story every how to keep kids entertained, budget family getaways, how to avoid putting on weight. Lots of different types of stories that aren't necessarily anything really to do with Easter. But journalists are desperate for anything at Easter because it's a public holiday, government closes down, business shuts down, no one sends press releases except for the environmentalists about bilbies. So you do the story because you have nothing else to talk about. Okay, so the next step, write a press release. So a press release basically is an introduction to a journalist. Okay? It's not meant to be the whole story. Some people freak out about having to write anything. You can follow a template, you can write a press release. So it's just a one-page document that demonstrates you have a good story. They could copy and paste bits from it. They might expand upon it. They might decide to go off in a slightly different direction. Or they might use you as an expert down the track. So they've got your press release, they now know that we have a locksmith on our books that we can call another time and speak to Justin then. You email your press release. Okay, so you email a press release. You follow it up with a phone call. You must follow it up with a phone call. Don't think you can just email it and get away with that. You have to follow it up. You do the interview, you get the story, you generate sales by understanding how to include your call to action. So you have to include something like, for more information about this topic, you visit the website or you come to the event or whatever your call to action is. You have to put that in there. You access massive search engine optimization benefits, so your website can go up in rankings by getting a link from the media. So powerful. No one's doing it. Okay? So if you get a story in the media, chances are it'll be on their website. You can get a link from their site to your site will shoot up in the rankings. No one's even thought about that. So if you can start doing that kind of stuff, then you start seeing the big bucks. Okay, so there are other ways to do this, but that is certainly the fastest. So what can publicity mean for you? I just want to give you a couple of quick examples. Darlington Estate Winery, they've been on some magazines and newspapers. They had a Singaporean reality TV show come and film. These are some of our students. Come and film at the winery. They had BBC World come and film at the winery. And then they got a story in their local newspaper about BBC World filming at the winery. So they got publicity for their publicity. We've had 3 students on national TV in the last month. Again, these are women who are health related, a midwife, a nutritionist and a psychologist, and they've appeared 5 times in the last month. So the results, that if you friend me on Facebook, you'll see the posts on my Facebook page are amazing with the results. Every day someone's saying, I got this, I got that, Tasha posted that, and maybe an interview. It really does work. So I know I've got over time, and Tasha's giving me the wind up, so I'm just going to quickly tell you about our half-day seminar. So it's called Free Media Publicity. Justin was there this morning, so was Debbie. And it's basically going to show you how to get free publicity in a whole lot more detail. It goes for half a day, and I've had a chance to do today. And most importantly, make more sales out of it. So our business is called Publicity for Profit. It's not about publicity for making you feel good or publicity for brand awareness. It's publicity for driving clients to you. Okay, so we're going to go through the 4 steps to media success, what you need in a publicity campaign, coming up with some great story ideas for your business during the seminar. I'll have the whole press release process explained, the publicity process mapped out, how to use the media for SEO, and we get a little bit into mindset. There's some mindset subjects as well. We hold them at the Bayview Eden Hotel on Queen's Road from 8:15 to midday. We've got 2 dates coming up, Tuesday the 4th of March and Thursday the 10th of April. I've got some forms here, so I might just separate those and pass them around if anyone's interested. Take one and fill it out. The cost is normally $97, but for you guys tonight it's $79. If you fill that form out and give it to me tonight, you can have it for $79. Just one last thing before I wrap up. Being in the media is an opportunity to step up and shine, to step up and be more of who you are. And I really want to encourage everyone. Part of my mission, I think, on this planet is to help people step up and step into their true purpose. And when you can start getting media coverage and be recognised for who you truly are, you expand as a person. And I want to just share with you one comment about mindset. And being a small business owner, I think, is all about overcoming your limiting beliefs and your fears. There's no greater self-development force than running a business, I believe. And I know when I've grown myself as a person, my business has also grown. And I stepped over a huge barrier of fear just a couple of short years ago, around the same time I decided to start this business. And that fear had held me back and held me back and held me back for 20 odd years. And when I finally decided to step up over that fear, my whole life changed. And the life of my family has changed. And that fear, you may surprise you to learn, was a massive fear of public speaking. I could not imagine in a million years that I would be doing this, let alone speaking on other stages of 300 to 400 people. And some people said, how could you be fearful of public speaking when you read the news on the radio? And I had, parameters around where I could and couldn't speak. Your mind plays amazing tricks. I could speak in a studio where it's just me and a microphone, but if someone walked in while I was on air, I'd go to pieces, because then that became public speaking. And when we used to do those, if I was ever around the room thing like I did before, I'd go to the toilet to avoid it. So I really believe if I could overcome that is at the centre now of what I do, and it was my biggest fear. And I believe if you can move through your biggest fear, then you are one step closer to living your true purpose, because that is the trail. You need to say yes to the scariest thing in your life in order to be the most you're meant to be on this planet. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I also have had a journey of vulnerability. I used to hate telling people about the fact that I had a fear, but as soon as I was willing to let my guard down and be vulnerable, it gave space for everyone else to do the same thing. So I just wanted to leave you on that note. So I really enjoyed this evening. I'm going to enjoy staying here for the rest of tonight. I encourage you to connect with me on Facebook. Send me a friend request, but send me a personal message too, because I have a few thousand friend requests that I'll never look at. But if you send me a message, I'll see it. I want to thank you again for being a lovely, warm audience. And I look forward to connecting with you on Facebook, and most importantly, I look forward to seeing you guys in the media sometime